Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr. I apologize for the delay. My sister borrowed my mic last night, and then I plugged everything up, ready to go, and nothing would work. So, still don't know what's up with the mic. So I had another mic, this Blue Snowball. So that's what I'm using today. Actually, I have another mic. I just don't have it's a new mic. My sister's got me for my birthday, actually. So, I just haven't had everything to put that together. So next week we should have a new mic, and I hope that you guys can hear me fine, because I can't quite hear myself in my headphones. So if everything's all good, just let me know. So thank you guys for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about Hunter Biden and the revelations that have come out through a whistleblower at the IRS. And we know that Hunter Biden got like a slap on the wrist with some misdemeanors with his tax schemes, but it come to find out, in the IRS, they wanted to charge him with some more serious felony counts, and they just did not have the full authority to do what they wanted to do, which is direct contradiction with what Garland and the DOJ and Biden, were alleging, and what the media and stuff was saying. So this investigation on Hunter Biden was not done in like with the utmost sort of integrity, full from pressure from the White House and etc. That's not how things were at all. So I'm glad to hear more stuff is coming out. Not glad in the sense that I'm glad that what's done in darkness is coming to light. I'm not happy that these sort of things are happening in our country. But we'll be talking about that today in this bombshell text message with Hunter Biden, basically implicating his daddy and his crimes. So there's that. Also, we talked yesterday about how the Titan, the Ocean Gate Titan, was they had found debris, and they were out of oxygen anyway by that time. But comes to find out, the Navy, I guess, already knew that it had imploded basically on Sunday. And James Cameron, the director of the Titanic, he said once he found out that they had submerged on Monday and gone missing, within he started making calls and making emails because it's a small community, and he knew within like an hour and a half that basically it had imploded. So people are just kind of questioning, why were we on this like adventure? Wondering if they're going to be rescued and stuff. Not that we shouldn't, deploy resources, but James Cameron even criticized kind of how they were even looking and stuff. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But also Demi Lovato is she released a new song that is called Swine, and I don't think it does the pro-choice movement any favors. And it really just lets you know kind of the debauchery that's associated with the pro-choice movement, if this is kind of the face of what they want to show in promotion of abortion. So we'll be talking about all those things today. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos. Please go ahead and check out different merch that we have. I got like this pro-choice Men Are Sus shirt, short for suspect. We got the Life Wins, Roe and Casey aborted stuff. Of course, tomorrow is the anniversary of Roe v. Wade being overturned. I guess that's why, Lovato's releasing her song now. We also got the You Are Not That Special. We got those mugs. We got the black tea mug, of course. So there's different stuff you guys can go ahead and check out at the website. And as well as some books that I have. I am an author of 17 books. This is my photo with mine, 15 books, but I have 17 out. 2 are nonfiction, and the rest are fiction. I have middle grade chapter books for kids. Great. It's not like political or anything, but great values, conservative sort of values, old fashioned sort of values within the story. Super Kid 2, the power of believing in yourself and other things like that. It's loosely, well, not loosely, but it's inspired by stories based off of my dad. It's not an autobiography, but he was a very adventurous child. Also have my book, of course, Guys Blatantly Gets Abortion, available on Amazon and also Barnes and Noble. So go ahead and check that out. It covers theology, of course, but also covers science. It also covers philosophy and all sorts of other things. So please check that out at Amazon. As I said, if you didn't hear coming in, I apologize for starting late. My sister had borrowed my microphone when I went to plug it in. It wasn't working, so I don't know uh if there's an issue where I have to reinstall the drivers or something like that. But I had to like switch out my mic, so it just delayed me a bit. So if you can, I hope you guys can hear me just fine. If you can, let me know in the chat. Because the audio is not for the mic's not coming through on my headphones. I can hear the audio of things that I play though, I believe, at least. We'll see. We're going on an adventure together. Sorry for the little bit of chaos today. Also, my main YouTube account was censored this week because of a video we did with Deb Tilden with the Smart Women's Healthcare, and they've instituted a policy similar to their COVID policy, where if you say something that goes against who, that they will take your stuff down. They did not tell me what went against who. I appealed it. They still didn't tell me, and they said yes, this violates it. So I had a strike on my account. So my main YouTube account, I haven't been able to stream from. I'm looking very forward on Monday reposting some of the stuff we talked about on that particular account. But I thank you guys for going through the motions with me. As you know, but through the censorship, I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. Regardless of whatever they do, this is a conversation that's important to have. So we're going to continue to keep having it. And if you like what I do here, please make sure you go to the website, drop in your email. So, what's going on. Make sure that you're following me across my different social media platforms. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, there should be links in the description to my other channels. And also, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost a stream room, a website, all the good stuff. So if you can support, God bless you. Very much appreciate it. And that's all. So I do have a meme for the day to start off. So government looking for submarine, and then the government looking for your at the Venmo transactions. So so there has been a search with the Coast Guard, and they were looking for the Titan that disappeared, where you had the CEO and there's the passengers on it. And so a lot of people had like such awful takes because they're these billionaires on the submarine. But there's still people. They're still mourned by people who knew them. At least we assume. And but all week people have been like, oh my gosh, they're going to find them. They're running out of air. And people are thinking about all these like scenarios. Like, are we going to have this great rescue? And maybe we get them the last second and and they'll survive. And then of course, yesterday we're like, they found some debris. It's over. But apparently the Navy had picked up the sound of the implosion very early, like on Sunday. And they knew like the whole time. And I guess they're searching this big like radius, I think the size of like Connecticut and stuff. And James Cameron was like, they found it exactly where I knew they'd find it. They found it like where they landed, like they were where they were going. So like actually near like the Titanic site. So he's like, why searching all this kind of place? Like he's like, I knew where it would be. And he found out on Monday that they were lost. And so he said he started making some emails and some phone calls. And he said he knew within an hour and a half that the thing imploded because I guess people had concerns about how it was built. I know it's made other journeys, but it's just wasn't built to last. It looked pretty rinky dink, and you know, they did not live long after their journey once they departed. So people just kind of question why the theatrics with the media and stuff. I don't know. There's a bunch of different speculation. People say distraction. People say, like, I don't know, from Hunter Biden and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know. Perhaps, maybe, maybe not. But it's a pretty sick thing to be like, oh, this will be a good thing to distract the American people from. I know I'm a bit of a cynic. Um, I don't know if I want to be that much of a cynic, but maybe it's true. Maybe it's not true. I don't know. But that's what's been I don't know, hypothesized within some of the circles in the conservative sphere. But we do know that they did know, and they did not live long. So um, to all you out there making your memes, you know, these are still human beings. The really shady, like angry class warfare takes are obviously not good. Um, but you know, just keep the family in your thoughts and your prayers. What a heck of a way to go! Heck of a way to go. Anyway, let's jump on this Hunter Biden story. Hunter Biden, he's so protected. This is the most like tra- trashy family, I swear. With Joe Biden and his son, and you know, a lot of people have kids that are into addiction, and I part of me just doesn't understand Joe Biden. Why the, oh, I'm proud of Hunter, he's the smartest guy I know. Why, you know, oh, he makes me proud and so happy with my presidency, etc., blah blah blah, saying stuff like that. And I get that you're his dad and you want to say nice things and you don't want to throw him under the bus, but bruh, I feel like, you know, if it was just about any other parent, they'd be like, my knuckleheaded kid, man, you know, maybe got to say things in a kind of presidential way, but the the kind of things that he's been into, the prostitution, the drugs, and whatever. But I think it's pretty clear that Biden has coddled and covered for his son, and that's, you know, you feel for him for his son going through all these things and being a part of all these things. But I think it's a pretty much a reflection of Biden and his parenting style and the way he's lived his life. Like, he has no consequences. He runs his presidency like he can do anything and he'll have no consequences. The exit from Afghanistan, you know, I talk about this a lot. Political Playbook um talked about Harbrook's diary when they're talking about Biden, and he had kind of soured with the war in Afghanistan, and then he kind of warned him, like, if we just pull out, what about what happened to the women going to schools and all this other stuff, and the Taliban comes back in, and instead of thinking about all the repercussions, Biden's just like, psh, Nixon got away with stuff. We'll get away with stuff. Like, his attitude was just like, we can do what we want. We can, because no one's going to hold us accountable. And it's pretty much been the height of his presidency. And so the other day, Hunter Biden, you know, it was announced that he had some charges that were coming at him, but instead of getting some, you know, felonies, he got misdemeanors for his tax crimes. And basically his gun charge was just, you know, it was like diversion or something. And it was going to eventually maybe get potentially just like fall off his record. So I saw a TikTok with this kid who's a DNC shill, but he's a big account. But he gets paid by some kind of managing group or whatever that gets paid by the DNC. And so he was like, we have a gun problem in America. We have a gun problem in America. And he starts trashing guns and talks about mass shootings, etc. So I replied and I said, yeah, we do have a problem. So when we don't enforce laws on the books and you have someone like the president's crackhead son who bought a gun, lied on an ATF form, and everybody knows it's a lie. Dummy put it in his autobiography. We look at the timetable; it was obviously a lie that when you mark on the form and you're not supposed to be, like, you know, addicted to like drugs or whatever. Obviously, he was when he filled out the form to purchase a gun, and he got himself a gun. And then his girlfriend at the time, who is his brother's widow, add another check mark to the trashy family. She ended up throwing away his gun near a school. And the Secret Service like tried to clean up or whatever, but obviously they didn't clean up good enough because here we are talking about it. And so if you don't hold people like that accountable, because we know he did it, if we don't hold them accountable, it kind of makes people who are law-abiding citizens who own firearms, who obviously don't go out and murder people, and are responsible with our guns and whatnot. It makes us feel like you just want to confiscate our firearms when you are so obsessed with making more rules and letting people like Hunter Biden just get away with stuff. Because what's the point of having more gun laws and restrictions if you're not going to go after the people who blatantly break them now? You're just really setting a bad sort of precedent, So a lot of people like that video. And I've been saying, like, I can't take Biden seriously unless, they take this seriously. Now, did I ever expect like Hunter Biden to go to jail or no? I didn't expect him to go to jail. There was like some talk that he would his lawyers would try to use a Second Amendment defense and say that, I guess gun restrictions that he would be guilty of are unconstitutional. So that would have been an interesting thing to see if it went before the Supreme Court. But even if they wanted to throw the book at him, Joe Biden is a president. He could just obviously pardon his son. I wouldn't expect him to just let his son go to jail. So I was expecting him to do time or something, but we can all see it all play out that he's getting special treatment. I was leaving my parents' house the other day. My mom's like, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this. And this was after she found out that I got a strike. So I didn't know what she was about to say, but she's like, just tell them that this is rich white privilege. I just kind of laughed. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely like rich, like sort of privileges that not that rich people don't sometimes go to jail and other stuff too, but and get the books thrown at them. And it's like political affiliation, but as well, but his proximity obviously to the president is obviously helping him here. So that's been obvious. It's super obvious. So we're going to go through a bit of this report, but there's evidence that Hunter Biden has now implicated his dad, because people are like, why are you guys obsessed with Hunter Biden? Why are you guys so obsessed with Hunter Biden? Because they're so intermingled. And Biden told this ridiculous lie, this absolutely ridiculous lie, that he didn't have any sort of association with what was going on. So that he didn't know anything about his son's business dealings, which was a lie, and it was always a lie. So we're going to go ahead and watch this montage that the RNC had put together some time ago.
I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses.
President Biden met with at least 14 of Hunter's business associates while he was vice president.
Then Vice President Joe Biden had dinner with his son Hunter, along with Hunter's business associates from Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And the day after the dinner, a Burisma executive sent a note to Hunter, quoting, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together."
Hunter's lucrative business dealings often included giving as much as 50% of his earnings to his dad.
The text read, quote, "I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary."
His son, Hunter, joining the then vice president on the official visit to Beijing. Unknown to the press back then, Hunter Biden was forming a Chinese private equity fund, planning to raise money, including from Chinese investors. 10 days after the Biden's trip, Shanghai authorities issued the fund's business license.
And Hunter introduced me as, this is Tony, Dad, the individual I told you about that's helping us with the business that we're working on and the Chinese.
The email reads this way, quote, "At the moment, there's a provisional agreement that the equity will be distributed as follows. 10 held by Hunter for the big guy."
I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. I met with the former vice president in person multiple times.
A newly revealed text message shows Bobulinski was apparently warned by business partner James Gillier, "Don't mention Joe being involved. It's only when you are face to face. I know you know that, but they are paranoid.
Chinese executives admitted to reporters that they were actually introduced to the vice president by Hunter Biden.
Hunter and the then vice president seen with a pair of Mexican billionaires. At the same time, Hunter had been working on energy deals in Mexico.
Joe Biden also had Hunter and his business partner fly on Air Force Two to Mexico.
His closest business partner, Hunter's, made at least 19 visits to the White House and other official locations, including a sit-down with then Vice President Joe Biden in the West Wing.
There is photographic evidence of Biden on a golf outing with both his son Hunter and a man called Devin Archer, who was another member of the Burisma board.
We also know that Devin Archer in that picture had a meeting in the White House, one-on-one meeting with Joe Biden about a week before they joined the Burisma board.
Yeah, so it's been pretty obvious that they've been intertwined, that this was a big lie. Even like when Biden said that he didn't know anything about his son's business dealings on the campaign trail. I had showed this before, but they were talking about it on CNN. They're like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why wouldn't you at least talk to your son to make sure there wasn't some kind of conflict of interest? Because he can lie and he just thinks he's going to get away with it. And people aren't going to fact check him, that people aren't going to hold him accountable. And I hope that he's wrong. I think for the most part that he has been so covered. And I think some of the things that are being alleged and talked about and things that are in this whistleblower report from the IRS are things that could lead to like Biden being impeached. I don't know if he's going to be impeached. One, I don't think anyone really wants Kamala Harris to be president. I can sympathize with people who really didn't want to impeach Trump because they didn't want Mike Pence to be president. And which the thinking behind that for them were like, but Mike Pence actually believes what he says or whatever, and they didn't want like a real like conservative person in their view to end up being the president. That's what people would say. I just deeply dislike Kamala Harris so much, but I think people on the left and the right can kind of realize that she's not just kind of awful. And that's why you don't see her around a lot. If I were her, I would probably, if I were Kamala Harris, I'd probably jump in front of all this and be like, I don't know what kind of deals they all have behind the scenes or whatever, but she's obviously never going to be president. The only way she's going to be president is if Joe Biden is impeached. She's not going to be able, she just doesn't have the it factor. She doesn't have what it takes to get there on her own. So the only way she's going to be president at all is if Joe Biden is impeached, and maybe she'll just be president for a little while, but at least she'll be in the history books. I mean, she's already in the history books, but at least she gets to say that she was president. And if she is president, if he is impeached and she is president, then we'll kind of have an argument for folks on the left. Like, you guys are really going to ask the first female woman of color to step aside and you're not gonna support her incumbency. So then she could like try to guilt folks, and people would feel like, oh, y'all trying to put the black woman aside or whatever. So this would be her best bet, to kind of jump in front of it and be like, this stuff is shady, we do need a full investigation, and if there's some wrongdoing, then we need to support now, Democrats are really good in getting in line with stuff. So I don't think that maybe she'd be as bold and advantageous to do that. Though they were on a debate stage together, and she did accuse him of like trying to keep her from integrating from schools. So maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. But that would be, if she wants to really have a good kind of, if she wants to be president, and to look like the adult in the room, she could at least point out the shady stuff going on and be like, Joe, you got to explain yourself. We got to get to the bottom of this. Because things that are in the whistleblower report allege that basically a lot of people within our Justice Department are ultra shady right now. Ultra shady. And it is not just Joe. It's not just Hunter. But it's the people who want to also cover for them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show a little bit of this segment from Fox News, kind of detailing what's going on. And it's a good summary of the report and the controversy and what's gonna happen.
Differential treatment during the IRS investigation into his tax affairs. Correspondent David Spunt has the details tonight from the Justice Department.
A thumbs up from the president when asked how his son is doing. On Capitol Hill, Hunter Biden is under the microscope.
The scales of justice cannot be tipped in the favor of the wealthy and the politically connected. No one is above the law.
A strong rebuke from the Republican chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, moments before he publicly released new transcripts from 2 IRS whistleblowers who say the Hunter Biden tax investigation was botched and influenced by politics. IRS Supervisory Special Agent Gary Shapley told congressional staff he saw a 2017 WhatsApp message from Hunter Biden to a Chinese businessman, writing, "I am sitting here with my father and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight." President Biden has repeatedly denied discussing any business deals with his son. Shapley came forward publicly last month.
There was multiple steps that were slow walked at the direction of the Department of Justice.
Another bombshell allegation announced today involving U.S. Attorney David Weiss in Delaware, the same federal prosecutor who announced a plea deal with Hunter Biden earlier this week in this case.
Testimony shows that U.S. Attorney of Delaware David Weiss tried to bring charges in the District of Columbia around March of 2022 and was denied.
DOJ officials tell Fox News this is false, and Weiss, originally a Trump appointee, retains full control over the probe.
That he would be given full authority to decide the matter as he decided was appropriate. And that's what he's done.
Weiss said the same in a June 7th letter to Congressman Jim Jordan, writing, "I have been granted ultimate authority over this matter." Trace, Chairman Jason Smith said today that he did not request Hunter Biden's tax records from the IRS. The president's son will appear before a judge in Delaware on July 26th. Trace.
David Spunt live for us in D.C. David, thank you. Up next, the controversy.
So, according to the whistleblower, though, they wanted to bring actual federal charges and not do these misdemeanor stuff, but it was known that Weiss didn't have final authority. So there's records, or at least allegations, that people within the IRS knew that other strings were being pulled and Weiss didn't have full authority on the situation. But when Hunter Biden used money he paid for his prostitutes and wrote them off for his tax expenses and stuff. If you think about tweets from Joe Biden tweeting, the rich need to pay their fair share, and what's paying your fair share when you try to write off business expenses of you paying for your prostitutes and them traveling. The IRS even had to interview his escorts. Writing off when you going to clubs and different things to see your escorts, and just nothing. Like, people are noticing, people who get dinged by the IRS, the same, folks that are going to be looking at your $600 on your Venmo accounts and stuff. They're aware that if everyday average people were in those kind of situations, or not everyday maybe just people they don't like. If you recall, when Obama was president and Joe Biden was the vice president, the IRS were targeting conservatives. They were targeting anything that came up in their group that had a conservative kind of right leaning. Like if you maybe had Patriot in your title or something, they were targeting people who they saw as right wing. It was a big scandal, and no, it didn't all the way go up to Obama. They never quite found that thread to be like, aha, Obama ordered them to do this. But people are so biased, maybe they don't think that they have to, or Obama's just obviously smarter than Joe Biden is. And so Hunter Biden is a moron, though. So as the report said, that there was a text message from Hunter Biden saying that he was, I'll read it again. I'm sitting here with my father, and he would like to understand the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and that means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I'm sitting here waiting for the call with my father. So that was from a WhatsApp text. So you put this threat like in the WhatsApp text from a Chinese businessman with connections with like military and stuff, connections and stuff. And his dad is right by him, according to Hunter Biden. Now, of course, this could be a lie. Maybe he's just like saying it and it's not true, and his dad isn't there. However, and this was juicy to me. Like I saw someone from the Free Beacon who was like writing about this, and he was like, Joe Biden needs to be directly asked about this and needs to be on record, either like denying what his son said, denouncing what his son said, or explaining or whatever. But like we need like an answer on this. And someone in his comments was like, you guys wrote this article some time ago, so this puts him at the location. He's like, oh my gosh. So I look at it, and yes, sure enough, the text was sent on in July of 2017, to July 30th. And so that's Hunter Biden, not too far from the house, in his dad's Corvette, with a niece, I believe, and someone else. And so that puts him there, like near the location. And so the reason why Washington Free Beacon had wrote this article and posted this picture is because in that original article, they were just stating that he could have had access to the classified records that Joe Biden kept in his garage, I guess near the Corvette. So with his crackhead son, having access to take the car and go to the house, etc. So if I'm not mistaken, he might have been paying for the house at the time. See, the thing about Hunter is he would be covering the bills, or he wrote that he paid for a lot of bills. So I don't know if they found all the kind of the paper trail that they need to be like, here's a payout or whatever from Joe Biden with these bribes or whatnot. But we do at least know that their finances have been intermingled. There was even one report about that Joe like accidentally paid for one of Hunter's like escorts and stuff. So they're very intertwined. But people, according to the whistleblower report, it was clear that when they would do business, or Hunter would have his dad come by, he was at least using his dad for influence and as a reminder for influence to get what he wanted, whether it was deals with the Chinese or in Ukraine. And so there's so much shady stuff going on, but he has directly implicated his father. We already played like a montage of Joe Biden saying like, I don't have any dealings with my son. I don't know anything. I don't ask about my son's business, which is, no one believed it at the time. No one who's honest, I think, really believed it at the time, but that's what he said. He denied it. It obviously wasn't true. It was never true. And now we have evidence. We've had evidence, but this is a more clear evidence that wasn't true. So Hunter was at least around at the time on the day near the house. And so you could say, well, maybe his dad wasn't there, maybe, but there is also another photo that's close to that date of Joe Biden being a few minutes away from the house. So it's likely, in my opinion, that they were together and that Hunter is probably not lying about this. Now, he is a liar, he is a crackhead, and he could be texting anything. Maybe he was there, maybe he wasn't there. But he needs to come out strongly and denounce this and deny this and say his son, this was a lie, this was false, or whatever. They could just be like the text isn't real or whatever, but who would believe them? Because Biden tried to pretend Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation. You had folks arrange a letter from over like 50 officials that said it had the whiff or something of interference, Russian disinformation, or whatever, when they knew it was true, they knew it was real. The IRS knew that it was real, you know, before in like 2019, but they had to keep going with the lie. Yeah, yeah, the whistleblower said that the FBI knew could authenticate the laptop by November of 2019, and that it hadn't been manipulated. So when the story started to break with Rudy Giuliani getting the laptop, and it did sound like I don't blame people for not automatically jumping on and believing it, because it did sound strange. It did sound weird. It's like, out of all the things to drop out of the sky to like be an October surprise or whatever, like, this is a heck of a thing. It just sounds a little too good to be true. But then you remember that Hunter Biden is a crackhead. And then you're like, well, crackheads do crackhead things. So it's very likely that maybe he did leave this laptop with all the sensitive information at this shop. And apparently he's lost like 3 laptops, but he left it there. And the store owner said that he had reported it to the FBI. They didn't do anything. So he started, like, I guess, getting uneasy. And then he, found Rudy Giuliani and gave it to them or whatever. And but then stuff started to come out, different emails started to come out, and people were responding to it. Like, there was an email between Hunter and Frank Lutz, and someone posted it, and Frank Lutz responded to it, and he like explained the email. So I'm like, so these aren't fake. These things are obviously real. But people, kept trying to say there's Russian disinformation, or the Biden White House would try to pass it off as disinformation, but they wouldn't quite deny the things in there. I'm like, they know that this is real. And Biden, he would tell the media when they press him on it, or try to press him, or kind of just a little bit. They didn't really press him too hard. He'd say, like, I don't want to change the conversation. That's what, they want. That's what Trump wants. I don't want to change the conversation. And it's like, are you going to really let him dictate what we're going to say and ask about within this election season? And he did the same thing with questions about packing the Supreme Court, because he didn't want to answer what he wanted to say. Now they know that he knows that packing the court is actually a bad idea. But that's what the radicals want. And if it's politically advantageous for them, why not talk about it? Why not push it? And maybe even eventually try to do it. But he didn't want to be honest and say, that he'd really think about it or do it or implement it or whatever, because he didn't want to, freak out the American people. And even if he didn't want to do it at the time, he didn't want to flip out his base that really wanted them to do it, because they just want power and they don't really care about our institutional norms. Like, they talk a lot about Trump ruining our institutional norms, but these people are the ones who keep ruining our institutional norms. So, this is really bad for Biden. At least it looks bad. At least it is bad on paper or in testimony and whatnot. Kudos to, people who are reporting it. And this is so funny, because when Hunter Biden got his little indictments or whatever, or Beach's plea deal, you had folks, on MSNBC and CNN just like, oh, it's, the Justice Department, they did their job and they're good, and they didn't show favoritism, and they're just simping, just saying all these things that obviously weren't true. People can look at the charges, and they know that if it was their crackhead cousin who had a felony gun charge, that they probably wouldn't be getting off so easy, or their friend who had, try to write off prostitution in their taxes, they wouldn't have, got off so easy. People know that. So everyday people are like, this doesn't smell quite right. I think it's so funny, so interesting that the guy who sponsored the 1994 crime bill has a crackhead son who had this felony gun charge, that they're just like, well, we just want that to fall off. You just want that to fall off. You might won't need to buy a gun one day. Let's just let it fall off of his record. He's, other people, we go hard at it, but not Hunter, not dear Hunter. So Merrick Garland was also asked about some of the stuff going on, and he basically had a Fauci approach, where Fauci's like, you question me, you're questioning science. And Merrick Garland's just kind of like, oh, you're questioning justice, and this is wrong, blah blah blah, etc.
Mr. Attorney General, Republicans in Congress have flirted with the idea of holding the FBI director in contempt. It's become a talking point on the campaign trail, the alleged corruption in the FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies. Do the American people have cause to be concerned about the integrity of the components of this Justice Department, and what do you have to say about how they're acting?
I certainly understand that some have chosen to attack the integrity of the Justice Department and its components and its employees by claiming that we do not treat like cases alike. This constitutes an attack on an institution that is essential to American democracy and essential to the safety of the American people. Nothing could be further from the truth. You've all heard me say many times that we make our cases based on the facts and the law. These are not just words. These are what we live by. They are the foundation of the way we make these decisions. The agents of the FBI, as well as the DEA, the ATF, our deputy U.S. Marshals, every day, often at great personal risk, protect the American people and secure its safety. Our cases are based on their work. I could not be more proud to work with.
So if you question them at all, you're endangering our institution. You're endangering the American people. Except what utter trash, what utter nonsense. People questioned Trump every single day of his presidency. They questioned Barr. They questioned everyone who worked for him nonstop. And if you did, even if you didn't do something, the fact that you didn't say something, you're complicit. So this whole like attitude of we're not allowed to question people, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, and they know that it's ridiculous. So we just have to always trust the authority of those who are in power, those who are in charge. We have to swallow whatever happens because we're the problem. It's not that maybe you did something wrong. We're just the problem. We're the problem if we say, hey, you shouldn't be targeting parents who are concerned about their kids, and we don't like you guys labeling domestic terrorists and stuff. It's like, you guys are the problem, clearly. I'm so glad. I am so glad that this man was not a Supreme Court justice. I'm so glad the Republicans held the line when Obama nominated him. I'm so glad. You guys can hate McConnell's guts, but at least they held the line. Thank God that Donald Trump won and got to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. And, tomorrow is a celebration of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That would have happened if they wouldn't have held the line. But beyond like and there were other rulings that were crucial as well. Like during the pandemic, there were free speech cases that went before the Supreme Court that everyone should have ruled, in the favor of liberty and churches being able to open. Because like in New York, clearly they had different rules for churches than they had for other folks, and they went to the Supreme Court, and we ended up winning the day. I don't remember how close it was, but I think it was 5-4. It might have been 5-4. It was either 5-4, 6-3 or something. But I'm like, everybody should have been on the side of liberty. Like clearly New York was doing things that were unfair to churches as far as people being able to gather there versus gathering other places. And then the OSHA mandates. Now they ended up siding with the government when it came to like healthcare workers, because they said as long as you have Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever government funds, and they should be able to basically dictate you getting jabbed, which is a very good reason why we shouldn't have things like universal health care if the government or just any sort of government expansion within your lives with your kids, whether it's paid leave or child care and stuff. Just know that government money comes with government strings attached, even though they confiscated your money, and it's, they got to get the money from somewhere. And so they take your money and then they basically make you a slave to it if you want some of it back, I guess, in some kind of government program or something. So always be leery of that kind of stuff, and that's why I'm like dead set against, like, one of the reasons I'm dead set against like universal health care and other stuff like that. And some people are like, you're pro-life, why don't you want all these other things to take care of these families? I'm like, because I don't think the government's goal is to take care of you. That's not its purpose either, but it's definitely not its goal. It's definitely not its goal. So what was another one? Yeah, the OSHA mandates, how they're trying to enforce businesses to make you get jabs. So that got, struck down by the Supreme Court. And so I was so glad for that. But it would have been awful if Hillary Clinton got her pick of the litter and we just had a dominant left wing court. It would have been so awful. So I'm so glad that Trump got his picks, but not just because, of the cases that I mentioned, but because Garland is a hack. They tried to say like, oh, he's just above reproach. He's like, no nonsense. He's just so, etc. Blah blah blah. Maybe he was. I don't know. Maybe he was, and then he just got bitter because he got ousted from this dream job. I don't know, but we are so fortunate that he's not on the Supreme Court, because he's a joke running this Justice Department. But if you say that, you're ruining the institutions of everything, because he is the law. I guess he is the law, like a Judge Dredd sort of situation going on. But the president has to like be straight up with American people as far as these allegations. The Republicans should be, and this wasn't like the whistleblower stuff. That's not something like Republicans like scouring in a committee or something. The whistleblowers came forward with this information about how the investigation was derailed. So now they should bring in a bunch of people within our government, interview them, and get to the bottom of this. And a lot of this kind of seems like it would be impeachable with Biden, but I don't know politically if they're going to want to do it, because impeachments don't normally work great for the other party. So I don't know if they'll do that. I'm not saying that politics should be a reason why they don't end up doing the right thing, but he was shady, and so many people shouldn't have voted for him. So many people shouldn't have voted for him. And I think the Democrats aren't going to. I keep saying I don't think Biden is going to be the nominee, or I'm suspicious about him actually being the nominee. I think Democrats will be more likely to cut their will cut him loose. I think so. I think they're more likely to do that than Republicans are more likely to cut Trump loose from his legal trouble. I think they're more likely to get rid of Biden if he will in any way endanger their White House victory. Maybe they won't feel that's necessary if they think that Trump's going to be the nominee. But I think there's a big reason why, Vanity Fair and other folks are writing stuff about Gretchen Whitmer. I think there's a reason why Newsom was on Fox News and offering to do, why he's always attacking DeSantis, why he offered to do a debate. I think why he recommended a new amendment to the Constitution regarding guns. They're gimmicks for attention, for fundraising, for national, eyes to be on him. I don't think people are comfortable with Biden being their only option moving forward, and I don't think they want Kennedy to be it. So I wouldn't bank on Biden being the nominee. I wouldn't. So moving on, Demi Lovato released a song called Swine. And I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to read some of the lyrics and bleep some stuff out, but it's very crass. It's also not good. I heard a little bit, Live Action was talking about it, and Ben was talking about it in his show. So I've heard it. It's just, I think, everyone has their own opinion. I don't think it's a good song. And I think it really doesn't bode well for the pro-choice movement. So, again, it's called Swine. God forbid I want to suck whatever the bleep I want. God forbid I want to bleep whoever the bleep I want. And if he comes, that's not like come home. I guess I gotta be a mother. So, there's so many people who say, I'm pro-choice. I don't like people using it as birth control, but I just think a woman should have the right to choose. Now, when you start like chiseling away, when they say that, like their argument, eventually you might get to people just saying, well, I just think she should be able to choose. And they are actually okay with people using abortion as birth control. Like, they know it's icky, but at the end of the day, they'll support that because I've had this conversation with many of people that, like, they'll say that, and it's like, well, what do you think? It, people use birth control because they want the freedom to have sex, but they don't want a baby. So if you have an abortion because you had sex and now you don't want a baby, so outside of like, if you were sexually assaulted and ended up pregnant, because obviously you didn't instigate the sexual activity that resulted in the baby, or if it's some kind of medical emergency or life-saving situation where, you know, you got to do it early and induce the baby or something. Even I don't like it, like the mercy killings, eugenics sort of reasons either, but even that would be included in not being a situation where it would be, you know, birth control. But if you get knocked up and you're like, oh, I'm not married, or I got to finish school, or I just got a promotion, or I don't know how I'm going to be able to work and have the baby, or, you know, I don't really like this guy that I'm with and he doesn't want the baby, I don't want the baby, like, whether it's a one night stand or someone you were in a 2-year relationship with, like, that's still birth control. You're still having abortion for birth control. So once you kind of start chiseling away and you keep going deeper in the arguments, they'll just be like, "Well, I just think a woman should be able to choose." So when people say they don't think that women should be able to use it as birth control, I'm like, "What?" I asked one woman one time, I'm like, "Why don't you just say you're pro-life with exceptions, like medical reasons and sexual assault and like life of the mother?" Because then, you know, they're still like, because you're like against like 5% of like reported abortions. You're against 5% of it. So, or you're for like 5% of it, right? So if you're only for 5% of abortions out of like a million in the US every year, why not just say you're pro-life with these exceptions? Because when I continued having that conversation, they really were just like, her body, her choice, right? So if you really don't think that women should be using it as birth control, you should be pro-life with exceptions. But if you believe that women should be able to, like, oh, well, they were having sex but their birth control failed, which, by the way, only like 0.5% of like 50%, 49, 50, 51, 49, something like that percent of women who have an abortion were on some kind of birth control at the time of them you know, getting an abortion. So only about half these women are actually like on something, taking preventative measures, but it still doesn't matter. Just because you use abortion as backup birth control doesn't make it moral or right or whatever. So most of these people do believe that women should be able to use the birth control. But why go through the song and dance? Because they know that it's icky, that it's wrong, that it's immoral, that it's, you know, that it makes you sound selfish and loose. So Demi Lovato is just like ripping off the Band-Aid and saying, I want to be a whore. And that should be my business. And if a kid comes along, you expect me to be a mom? You expect me not to murder that kid? You expect me not to yeetus the fetus? So that attitude, I think, to most people is revolting. To just go out there and say it. So making a song and putting this on a record, I'm not saying people won't enjoy it, that there won't be girls who listen to it, to rock out to it, to play it at the next like Women's March or Planned Parenthood conference or something. I'm not saying that people won't enjoy it and won't, you know, vibe to it or whatever, but and that she's not emboldening this sort of degeneracy. But there's people who want to say, well, I think women should have that choice, or they really sympathize with women because because even though they don't want to say, like, I don't think you should have an abortion if your birth control fails, even if they don't want to go that extra step, in their minds, they just believe that women wouldn't just callously have an abortion. Like, they think of it as like really sympathetic situations. And I'm not saying women don't have very sympathetic situations. I don't, even though you're in a sympathetic situation, that doesn't mean that that situation justifies actually taking someone else's life. Right. Um, but most people think about like just really awful, terrible situations, maybe, and they empathize with the woman, and they're like, yeah, it's just like it's a necessary evil, right? They look at it that way. But the truth is that there's some people out there who just want to live brashly and without consequences, or with you know, and I don't see consequence like it's a bad thing. Consequence, it's just a result of your actions, you know. People get so triggered when you use that word. I'm like, maybe you should read Super Kid, because you know they went through that life lesson. It's a consequence doesn't have to mean something bad. It's just a result of your actions. So if you engage in procreation, you shouldn't be surprised when someone is created. That's how it works. So wanting to go out there and live the life however you want, and then being like, oh, I have to be a mother. And she just wrote that. I guess I gotta be a mother. So this is just really dark, degenerate stuff from Demi Lovato, who has had a lot of issues throughout her life. You know, she grew up in the business, and you know, had a bit of a wholesome image, like in the front of the cameras, but behind the scenes, she's, you know, doing drugs and using and all kinds of other stuff, partying. And she's been to rehab and been out, and you know, she's had like back and forth um in her life. And so not too long ago, she was going by they them, which I guess she got tired of doing, you know, explaining to people what it meant or whatever. So she just stopped recently, I guess. But now it's just like an embrace of this degeneracy. And I, you know, feel for her for the struggle that she's had. But this self-worship that she's indulging in hasn't made her happy. It hasn't made her safe. It has endangered her life repeatedly. And so I know people will look at me and be like, oh, you're so bound because why? Because I can remember what my days and my nights are like, because I'm not vomiting in front of a toilet, because I'm not addicted to drugs. You know, I'm very fine with my life, because I can have fun without downing a gross beverage and loosening my inhibitions or whatever. I don't get it. Like I like myself enough to be sober and to enjoy my own company. I don't understand. But I don't, maybe it's just projection. I don't know. Anyway, back to the lyrics. Bleep what I think. I don't know a thing. The government knows my body. No, it's okay. It's better this way. I'm only a carbon copy. Even if I'm dying, they'll still try to stop me. Which, like, every law, every state that has restrictions on abortion do have exceptions for life of the mother. In case you didn't know, the only reason why I guess it wouldn't be on the book is because there's no restrictions on abortions, period. So they wouldn't need to have, you know, life of the mother exception. But, you know, people being mad at the government, and like in the music video, I guess they're going to like burn the witch sort of thing. But people are okay with the government, you know, banning you from using your body to kill someone else in any other circumstance. It's just with abortion, they want the government to allow them to kill their child. So, but the right to bodily autonomy isn't absolute. You can't just use your bodily autonomy to just go violate someone else's rights. So that's where really where the question is, right? Does your bodily autonomy trump someone else's right to life? And I think the answer is no. It's just, why in this particular circumstance are we saying that we can't recognize this individual's right to life? And I understand the the head to head of it and the discussion of it. I do. But I don't really think there's a good logical reason for abortion. Like, I know there's all these philosophical reasons for bodily autonomy and personhood and etc. I just don't feel like they really hold up. I think the best arguments are like heartstring, case by case kind of basis. But again, because you feel maybe for that person, but the question is, does a difficult circumstance rise to the point where you get to override someone's life, and not just override them, but to go out of your way to kill them? And I gotta say, like 99% of the time, that's a no for me. um so I just don't think. So even if we banned abortion and allowed it for particular reasons, I think that's better than just saying everyone should just be able to do it for whatever reason. Obviously, one is better than the other. Um, do we even hear ourselves? My life, my voice, my rights, my choice. It's mine or I'm swine. So she's not a pig for just being someone who wants to sleep around and live her life and do whatever with no sort, just acting like an animal, humping whatever the heck she wants. But she thinks she's a pig because people say, hey, you have a child, don't kill it. That's very strange. That's very strange. Picture your faith, imagine your God, and even your holy Bible. It's suddenly banned. Do you understand? Now, doesn't that sound entitled? It's your book. It's my survival. There's a wonderful group called Secular Pro-Life. If you are not a Christian, if you're an atheist, you can go like check out. I make a lot of mostly non-religious arguments about abortion anyway. But Secular Pro-Life, they're run by atheists. It's run by atheists. They have guest columns from atheists. I don't know if all their guest columns are from atheists, but it's run by atheists, and they're against abortion. And I know pagans against abortion, and all sorts of folks who I follow as well. So you don't need to be religious to know that life starts at conception. Christopher Hitchens was a famous atheist who said that feminists have a contempt for science because they deny, that life starts at conception. He's like, there's no other place where it can be. So that's not a religious opinion that life starts at conception, and it's definitely not a religious opinion that abortion kills someone, because that's the point of the entire abortion. An abortion is a medical procedure that it ends a pregnancy resulting in the death of an embryo or fetus. And if you have a spontaneous abortion, that's referred to as a miscarriage. Most people don't use that terminology, but we're not talking about spontaneous abortions. We're talking about induced abortions, and it's induced because it's deliberate. So we all know that it kills a living human being. If it wasn't, obviously it's human is the same species as its mother, and it's obviously living because that's why you want the abortion. That's the whole point of it. So there's no point being coy, right? So that's not that's not a religious opinion. It's not a religious argument. Now, whether like or our morality and whether someone deserves life or not, like we can debate those things, but why do you not deserve protection in the womb, but you deserve protection outside of it? Because if we want to make a survival of the fittest argument, we could do that. But I don't understand why you think you're always going to be the one on top. And when we pick and choose who gets to have rights, we know what happens. Like, I'm Black. I know my history, bro. I know my history. And the United States of America, we get to pick and choose who's a person and who's not, and who gets rights and who doesn't. So I think it's in our best interest to be as fair as possible. When we come into existence as human beings, that is at the point where we're going to say, okay, well, you have rights, at least right to life. If you don't have a right to life, you have no other rights. You have no other rights. So right to life isn't a right to live forever. No one can have that. It's not a, like you can't say like healthcare because right to life or something, that's a commodity. But a right to life just means you have a right to not be killed. So going the religious route, I know a lot of people just try to pin it on religion, and I know a lot of people say, I'm pro-life because I'm Catholic or I'm whatever, and they pin it on their faith, but that's because there's a lot of ideology associated with their faith, and people should get better at breaking down their ideology or the philosophical arguments within their religion. Like, well, what I mean is this is why I believe that all human life is valuable and why it needs to be protected, etc. They could go through that route, why we need an objective standard of morality. Those are arguments that I make in my book. And of course, God is blatantly against abortion. And if you're a Christian and you don't know how to really argue for your side of things, there's some really important chapters that you guys can seek out and get for yourselves. So go ahead and check out that book, available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But that people can definitely, of faith can definitely make the argument without bringing up religion, but people will just say you're religious anyway. Even people at secular pro-life have been accused of being religious. But again, if we're just doing battle of the fittest, battle of survival, and no one is has any inherent value, why does Demi Lovato think that she has inherent value? like if someone took her out, would authorities care, or is that just why should there be justice for her but no justice for anyone else, or for the justice for the most innocent in the world? And you can make your argument why, and then people can make your argument against. We can keep debating. Human beings, we can debate all day long about this stuff. We got to grow them. We got to raise them. We got to feed them and bathe them. And if you won't, they call you a witch and burn at the stake in Salem. Thought by now they change, but we're still waiting. You don't, well, grow them, yes, I guess. Raise them, you don't have to. But by the way, the grow them thing, once the baby's in your womb, that's just, nature taking its course. But all you have to do is not kill that person, right? If you can just hang out for 9 months, and I know it changes your body, there are risks to pregnancy and all that stuff. That's a fact, but there's risks to you having sex, and which one of them is getting pregnant, but less STDs and all sorts of other things. And the mental hangups that obviously people have when they sleep around a bit. But yes, you grow them. You don't have to raise them. You can take them to fire station. You could take them to the police station. You could there's a, what do they call them? What kind of laws? Safe harbor laws, that you can take the baby elsewhere. You could have an adoption plan. So you don't have to raise them. You don't. I think it's best that you do, like you pull yourself together and you raise your child, and hopefully you do that in a loving environment with a father, that you're married to, like best case scenario, right? But I know not everybody does that. So there's these other options for you. So you don't have to raise them. So you don't have to feed them. But if you do need help feeding them, there's lots of resources certainly for that. But this grow them, raise them, feed them, bathe them, that's a really good reason for parents, for all these like social justice folks in schools who feel that they're their kids, and they like, you don't raise them, you don't feed them, you don't bathe them, you didn't grow them, so no, you don't get to read them This Book Is Gay or I Am Jazz. Like, the parents have a say. But that's not what the song is about. Give these mother bleepers heck. My life, my voice, my rights, my choice. It's mine or I'm just swine. This is so dumb. My blood, my loins, my lungs, my noise. It's mine or I'm just swine. Undercompensated to domesticated. The bleep. Underestimated. Overregulated. The bleep. Undercelebrated. Hated. Dominated. The bleep. We're infuriated, got us activated, get up, ever dedicated, newly motivated, get up. And if you're awake, then I'm so glad you made it. My life, my voice, my rights, my choice. It's mine, or I'm just swine, or I'm just swine. My blood, my loins, my lungs, my noise. It's mine, or I'm just swine. And that is her song called Swine. So women have agency, and they can. It's very easy to not get pregnant. It really is, if you don't want a baby. But they want to have this freedom in their sexual deviance without any sort of I'll use the word again, consequences for their action. But if you procreate and you make a baby, the baby exists. The baby exists. So if you want to add like killer on your tab and add homicide, you know, you can unfortunately do that in some places in this country. Not all places, thankfully, but her video and her lyrics, it really reminds me of this video I once saw of a man outside of an abortion clinic. It was a black man who was protesting, and he was, telling all these women there, he's like, you guys don't even believe what you're saying. You just want to be popular to your friends and etc. And I just thought he a lot of stuff that he said was great, but I think he really had a point, because so many people go with the crowd, and I think a lot of people instinctively know that this is such a terrible, awful thing, you know. Um, but people are trying to break that stigma, and people are trying to get to a point where, there's no restrictions. There's a case in the UK where a woman did telemedicine and got abortion pills. She claimed that it was only like, it was early gestation. You're only supposed to take the pills like if it's been like 10 weeks or something like that. It could be dangerous for the woman, and it might not work. So that on the baby, so you're really not supposed to take them past 10 weeks. But she was like between week 32, 34. So she got her pills and her baby died. So she's being charged. And so the pro-abortion people are like, oh, never again. We should never let this happen. And we should get rid of these restrictions. But this woman had full agency. She even Googled, like, will I go to jail for, killing a 30-week baby or something like that. So she had full agency in what she was doing. So the question is, a baby who could hear her mother's voice, that you could feel kicking and moving in your womb and all that stuff. Is it okay for a woman to be able to kill her baby? A baby that would be born in a few weeks, that she could drop off somewhere, that wouldn't have to raise it, she could put up for adoption or something. Should that mother be culpable for what she did? And I think so. That's a crazy situation. But the abortion folks, instead of going, oh yeah, she broke the law, yeah, 32 weeks is really bad, they're like, we should get rid of these restrictions. How dare they prosecute women for knowingly killing their fully viable, healthy baby? So we're in a complete moral decay situation. But thankfully there's a lot. This is a very informed, I think, pro-life generation. When I went in January, and thank you to people who helped me go there, to Right for Life, the March for Life, and then I went to the Students for Life Summit, and they were really smart. They're really wise. They had good arguments, um, standing for life. So I think we're heading in a really good direction. I'm really impressed with a lot of people who are so passionate. I'm glad that me speaking on these issues has impassioned people to be more pro-life and to speak up. I'm very grateful to people who said I've changed their mind on the issue. That's probably like the best compliment that I get, other than someone saying I've accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. But I'm glad that I'm out there changing people's hearts and minds on this issue, and I'd like to do more. I think it's horrific that so many have been killed throughout these years. I think it's horrific, not just the disproportionate amount of Black babies that have been killed, but just any baby that has been killed. And we've had over 60 million since Roe v. Wade was passed. And I'm so very happy that it was overturned. I'm so very happy that it was also overturned on my sister's birthday. So it'll be a day I never forget. And someone said a single-celled organism on Mars is considered life, but a baby in the womb is not. Yep. People, when they say life, they mean it in such a philosophical sort of way. I think, well, some people just like go full anti-science on the topic. They go full anti-science, but some people they talk about life, and they mean it in some kind of philosophical sense, like, what do we consider a life? And I don't know, what do you consider a life? And why is yours one versus someone else's? um like, they'll consider, like, you need personhood and all the kinds of different stuff, and I'm like, but they inherently have these things that you say they need to be human, to be alive or whatever. It's just that they don't possess those things particularly at that moment. And what does it matter once you, what, like, if you were killed or something, why seek justice for you if you're killed? If you're no longer here, what does it matter? Like, if someone like robbed you in the street and stole your wallet, and they need it for their friends or their family or whatever, and you die, of course your family is mourning you and stuff, but you're no longer conscious. You are just as conscious as an aborted fetus. But we would still go out and try and find that person who committed that crime. Now, crime is so bad nowadays, and we have these woke DAs and prosecutors and stuff. Who knows what would happen? But in a perfect world, we go out and find that individual, and they'd be put on trial. Now, I guess they could say, "Well, I needed the money. I did this for this reason, or whatever." And if we go back to the survival of the fittest thing, they could make an argument on why it was good for them to kill you and to take your money, and now they're paying it forward for themselves and other folks. They could make that argument, but we expect justice to be done because it's wrong to end your life. Even though you're no longer here, people still care. And I don't think it's just because people mourn you. And if our mourning and us caring is what makes your death wrong, then what we do as pro-life people, it makes it matter all the more if the silence makes them meaningless. So it's not a good argument for people shutting up. It's just one for us speaking forward, speaking more and coming forward. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today, being part of the discussion. Starting on Monday, I guess I should be able to stream on my main YouTube account. So things will be back to normal, and I should have my new mic. I hope this one sounded okay. So we'll figure that out, and I'm glad to get back to kind of the normal routine. But I'll continue to talk about this topic and this issue. For those of you who don't know, YouTube censored me talk in my interview with Deborah Tilden, but it's on Rumble, so you guys can go to my Rumble account and check out that interview. It was a very great discussion if you haven't seen it. And I'll probably be posting quite a few clips from out the week on that channel as well. They don't even allow you to write a post. So I couldn't even write a post saying, "Hey guys," I can't even but they let me edit a post. So I just did a little thing like, "I will be at this other account." I don't know how many people saw it though. But they're so weird. And again, they didn't tell me specifically how I violated their policy, whatever. But thank you guys for bearing with me through this all. Go to blacktnews.com. If you like what I do here, please support. This week, like I'm usually monetized on YouTube. Obviously, I'm still monetized. They didn't take away my monetization, but I'm not able to. I wasn't able to like post anything and do my lives there and make any money through monetization. So I missed out on what I would normally have that week through that. So if you can support, make up that difference, which YouTube won't get their cut because they do get it cut. So just go directly to the website if you'd like to support in that way. And whether it's a gift of $10, $20 or more, I very much appreciate it. So if you can support, God bless you. Bible says you have not because you ask not. So I'm asking if you can. Please check out different merchandise at the store, like different shirts and whatnot. But we also have books that you guys can get on Amazon, like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It's got a lot of great arguments in there besides the theological arguments, but it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And you can find all my other books there as well. I name drop Super Kid. That's a book that's loosely based on stories about my dad. He thought he was turning into Superboy because he's stronger than all the kids in his class. So let's just say he put himself into situations to get humbled. So the main character, he doesn't actually have powers, but he eventually learns that you don't need to have superpowers to make a difference. And so it's a great story with a lot of great morals in it. And that's available just on, if you go to blacktnews.com, go to the merchandise page, there's a banner with my books on it. That'll take my book website. But if you just search my name, Christina with CH, L Barr, BARR, no relation to Roseanne Barr or Attorney General Barr. But if you search me on Amazon, you'll be able to find my stuff. And I've been, working, writing on some new stuff. And I'm so very excited. Check out different merch that we have at the store as well. And make sure that you follow me across all my different social media platforms. God bless you guys. And go enjoy tomorrow, the anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. My church is having a donation drive for a local pregnancy crisis center. The crisis center doesn't know that we're doing it. My sister's just gonna show up on Monday and give them our stuff. But find a way to to give back, to do something, do some kind of activism or whatever. There's gonna be things all around the country, big stuff in DC and stuff. So it should be a good day tomorrow. Though I know there's gonna be mourning and gnashing of teeth, I guess, from the other side. But last thing I want to say, I guess, about the Demi Lovato thing before I let you go and in the live is that a lot of pro-life people will say we need to make abortion unthinkable. That's what Live Action and other folks say a lot. And I agree with that. We need to work to make it unthinkable. And but there's going to be people who never quite get there. We're not going to get everyone to agree that, yeah, we should get rid of this. We're just not going to. And so when I look at like Demi Lovato's song and the embrace of just deviancy and debauchery and just the self-idolatry, like she talked about Christians and other folks and their religion, but it's not the fact that I have a moral authority that bothers them. It's the fact that I won't ascribe to their moral authority, and I don't think they're worthy of that sort of self-worship to lay a child down at their altar of self. So their issues that they want to self-worship. And I just don't think they're worthy of that innocent life. So and I have an article on my website called Quest to Be God that dives more into that. But there's going to be some people who are never okay. And just like in the Civil War, they did have to work, and they were able to change some hearts and minds when it came to slavery. And the abolitionists worked really hard. Like the town of Ripley, John Rankin, Pastor Rankin, that town was a stop on the Underground Railroad, but they really preached against it. They really preached against slavery and stuff, and preached that everyone was, equal in the sight of God and stuff. So, people had the right heart posture to work to end slavery. But of course that couldn't happen everywhere because the South was like really sticklers on it, obviously. And there was some preacher that said they couldn't get revival to really break out in the South because their hearts were so hardened because of slavery. So you're not going to get everyone to get there, and you're going to make a difference. And I'm glad for the difference that we can make. But for the people who we can't get them there, they just have to be mad. We just have to defeat them, and they just have to be mad. People were mad when they lost their slaves, guys. People were mad when they lost their slaves and they couldn't enslave them anymore, and they lost their free workers, and people were ticked off, but it just was what it was. And they were obstructing freedom from human beings, and they just had to be mad. So just like slave owners were mad, there's going to be women who are just mad because they can't go out and have an abortion, and they'll get used to it. They'll get used to it. Women will be more careful about who they sleep around with, when they sleep around with them, and using protection. And men will be more careful about it. That is what will happen. That is what will happen. And people will if they get pregnant with people who like each other, they'll make life changes. They'll make life plans. That there was a story that the New York Times, that it was either the New York Times or the Washington Post, but they covered the story of this woman in Texas who couldn't have an abortion because of the heartbeat bill, and she ended up having twins. And they wrote it as if it was some kind of just, I don't know, awful story, or that's how the left was looking at it. But I'm just like, this woman has 2 babies now. She's getting married to her boyfriend, who was working at a burger joint, just going to skate parks, and now he has a life plan, and he's going to get a career in the military. And I'm like, this is a miracle of family. People growing up and learning to care for each other and to care for someone other than themselves. So people will get used to it. People will get over it. Now, will people do back alley stuff? or which back alley is a term, not just people having abortions in alleys. They actually go like to the abortion clinics through back alleys. You can't stop people from committing crime. Murder laws haven't stopped people from committing crime, or laws with theft haven't stopped all theft from happening. But having laws on the books do stop people from committing the purge, right? Just the whole thing being a purge movie. So I think a ban is important. We have to push for a ban, and not everyone's going to be gung ho for it. But as soon as we get the power to do so, I'm not coy with my end game. Like, abortion is not a good thing. Abortion is not a good thing. So you can't change everyone's hearts and minds. We should try. We should keep doing activism and keep trying to explain to people the humanity of an unborn child, which most people know, because if it's your baby, you want it. And if it's your baby, well, not everybody wants their baby, but if it's a baby in your room and you want it, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's so sad when they die, but it's even sad for women when they kill it, but they have a totally different attitude. It's so much so that there was a YouTuber, Chelsea Hart, I think it was her name, Chelsea Hart, and she had a big thing with this other YouTuber who she had slept with, and she was upset because she was vulnerable to him, and she explained, she's like, I told you how, I opened up to you because I opened up to you about when I lost my child and stuff. And so people dug into it deeper, and her losing her child was an abortion. And so then you had people who were pro-choice, who had abortions, who were upset at her for saying she lost her child when she aborted her child, because they view it differently as a miscarriage. And they're like, how dare you pretend like it was a miscarriage? And, which she didn't say it was a miscarriage, but in her video, but that's definitely the feel that you got. So they know that there's a difference. The intent is obviously different. They're aware of that, but they know that baby is alive and it's valuable when they want it. But they think it's, a different thing, and it's kind of uterus to fetus when you don't want it. So people are very morally depraved around the situation. I don't think everybody's a monster who goes out and gets an abortion, or everyone's a monster who they supported. I think they got a bit of a twisted sort of thinking, which a lot of same is true for a lot of things in history. But one day, hopefully, when we have kids and they have grandkids, and we're talking to our grandkids or whatever, and they look back at history and they're like, you guys killed how many babies a year? And we'll just be ashamed. Hopefully we'll just be ashamed. Like how people want to tear down statues today about, like, people who were like Robert E. Lee want to tear down those statues and stuff and be upset about slavery and stuff. And they're so ashamed of it, and what America's participation, and saying stuff like America was never great. Like, hopefully there's kind of some of that same energy in the future. Like, I can't believe you guys did this terrible, horrible thing. And I can't believe that there's so many people who are still so gung-ho for today, knowing all the information that we have. But anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you on Monday.